Good morning. Hey, you were listening to Car Musings, and I am your host, Matt Morgan. How is everybody doing today? For me, it's a very tired day. Not much sleep last night. I was up gaming a little longer than I should have been, but you know it is what it is. You gotta get the time in for yourself. So, anyways, how's everybody doing? How's your integrity today? It's probably cold, depending on which I don't know, part of the world you're in, right? Which hemisphere of the world you're in. Anyways, I'm your host, Matt Morgan. You're listening to today's episode of Car Musings. And how's everybody enjoying the 3 day a week podcasts, like our shows, 3 days a week now? How is everybody liking that? Is everybody liking that? Is that working for everybody? I do want to thank, we do have regular sets of listeners, and I want to thank you very much. Love you, appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. Just want to get that out of the way because I know there's a bunch of you that are regulars, and it's really awesome. Those numbers are picking up. So let's get into my usual spiel. Please check out themadmorgan.com for more information on this, that, and everything else. It's there. Check it out. Also, please share us. Please tell people about us. Yeah, we're up and down, we're up and down. Some people were like, you know what, you tend to swear a lot. You start to yell and stuff. And I'm like, well, I am called Mad Morgan for a reason. I get passionate about stuff. So, that's where the passion comes from. I get a little annoyed. It is true. So, what am I talking about today? What's today's show about? What's going on today? Well, if memory serves me correctly, we are into November of 2025. It's been one hell of a year across the board. And what's to really say about it as it comes to the end of it? It's, oh my God, yeah, it's been something special. I will tell you, and I don't know about your neck of the woods, but it's been special on my end. I'm hoping it's going to close on a better note than it opened. Just saying. Just saying. Today I was thinking about this, you know, in my tired state as I'm driving out in this colder weather. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? We could do a lot of stuff. We could talk about how the world is now. We could talk about all these other avenues. But what if we just wrote a book? Yeah, what if we just wrote a book? What if we just, you know, rather than saying, hey, this is how you should fix shit and everything else, why don't we just write an instruction manual, a guide to help people not end up being who they are, right? Like, help people make the right decisions earlier in life versus later in life. I think that would make sense. Kind of like, hey, this is what you're up against. This is what you should do. There you go. Go for it. That I was thinking about that. I'm thinking that's probably a really great idea. Why not? Here's an instruction guide. This is how you should start it off. No matter where you're from, no matter how you go about doing things, wherever your walk of life is, what part of the world you're in, don't matter. Here is your instruction guide on how to go about getting it right from the early stages. Because let's be honest, if we did things differently earlier in life, we would be further ahead. We really are. Some cultures have this down pat. Some cultures have this down pat. And regardless of the ins and outs and everything else of it, they have it down pat, and some of them learn from it. And they do quite well from it. Others not so much. But I was just thinking to myself, why not? And now I think that's something I'm definitely going to get started on. I'm definitely going to get started on that, an instruction guide. Because you gotta really sit back and wonder how everybody becomes what everybody becomes, right? Why do certain people go in the directions that they do? Why do people end up the way they do? Why? That's what it comes down to, is why does this happen? Whereas you'll have two people same city, blah, 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 and they're both seeing things differently. But why? Was it the upbringing? Was it the exposure? Is it like the brain only works in so many different ways, but usually it's based on conditioning. Usually it's based on a certain set of environmental situations that basically make it, you know, go in a certain direction. Because I mean, I sit back and I think about all the people I've met over the years, and I sit there and I scratch my head going, okay, they think I'm the freak, but I think they're the freak, right? But I'm not the freak. They don't think they're the freak. They think they're normal. But there's others, like, you'll notice that there's going to be a set of people that seem to follow the same walk, or, you know, walk the same walk, talk the same talk. Now, it could just be a matter of leaders and sheep. That could be true as well. You know, they don't really walk and talk the same walk and talk and everything else. It's just they're sheep, right? So they follow. They don't have a sense of leadership. They're basically waiting for somebody else to give them the direction. So, but look at the leaders though. Look at the leaders. Look at the free thinkers. Look at the, you know, a different set of certain people, and you sit back and you go, huh, why is it? Why? Because I mean, I sit back and I wonder too. I look at certain people, I'm like, how the fuck did you end up the way you are? Why? Why are you the way you are? How are you the way that you are? Why do you think the way you do? I'm trying to understand that. And then trying to, you know, emulate. Because, you know, you hear that saying, there's winners and there's losers. I don't think that should make a difference. I think it's just two different perspectives on going about doing the same thing. It doesn't mean one's right or one's wrong. It's just usually one direction that some seem to relate to, and that's usually the direction where the most sheep go to, because it seems the most familiar to them. Then you have the oddball that thinks things differently, completely valid way of thinking. It's just different than the sheep are used to, so they don't get on board on that. Maybe one or two do, but the majority of the flock doesn't, because it's not standard, right? So if you were to change certain factors at a young age, if you were born and when you were able to comprehend stuff, somebody said, here's an instruction manual. And if you followed that instruction manual, you will end up being successful. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good idea. I think it's something I'm definitely going to move forward with. It's something definitely I'm going to consider, because I think if we can mold future generations to not have certain biases, do not have certain viewpoints, do not have certain, you know, traits, personalities, and everything else, I think it would be excellent. Explain to them, excuse me, explain to them why at a young age it's not right to be unfair. Explain to them at a young age why it's not right to be racist. Explain to the right age why, you know, you should be generous and help out other people. Explain all this stuff at a young age, and if you do this with the majority, it just kind of becomes one of those things, right? Because it becomes one of those things, everybody's doing it. It's not that big of an issue. It's not like you have to sell the idea anymore. It's like everybody's doing it, everybody's on board with it, and before you know it, it all comes together, it all fits into place, and we all can cooperate and get along. Like it's so simple, but we got to do it, and somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to put something out there, which basically is this instruction manual, which makes life a little easier across the board, right? So I'm thinking, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. Yes, it's It's for both sexes, men and women. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good idea. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I gotta work on that though. I can't just put it in a pile of, oh yeah, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. No, it's got to go in that pile of, it's a good idea and we're gonna do it. None of this, let's think about it. Maybe we'll circle around again. No, no. We have to be one of those. Yeah, let's think about it. Great idea. Let's get it started. Let's get it done. The sooner versus later, because it's the only way we're actually going to get things going is if we actually get things going. So yeah, I think that's something I seriously have to consider. Is that going to benefit me in the short term? No, but the future's going to look a lot brighter for the next generation. It really is. It really is going to look a lot better. And that's, I think, where we want to actually focus. That's where we want to actually, um, encourage. Yeah, kind of consider where you're currently at as being damaged. Kind of consider where you're at as being fucked. Is it still fixable? Yeah, it is. But how do we do preventative? How do we prevent the next generation of people from being the way they are? You know, we want to get rid of the negativity. We want to get rid of all the negative stuff. We want to put on the positive stuff because there is people out there that are thoroughly convinced that they're doing it right and they're living a wholesome life and they're good people and they have integrity and they do this, that, and everything else, and they try to silence that little voice that screaming at them saying, yeah, you're fucking up, you're doing wrong, you're not a good person. Like, they just wipe that off. It's like, well, that's negative thinking, that's negative and everything else. That no, that's not me. And basically talk themselves out of the fact that they could be better. They could treat your fellow human better. They could give more. But it's thoroughly convincing themselves that, oh yeah, I'm good, I'm successful. These other people are doing without, that's their own fault, that's their problem, that's not my problem. Survival of the fittest, look out for number one, blah blah blah. You see, you gotta nip that kind of mindset in the bud and change that mentality, because that's what's destroying stuff. That's what makes, yes, people quote unquote winners, because what? They have the most money, they have the most toys. So fuck everybody else is what you're saying. Let them suffer as long as you are not suffering. And if we change that mentality at a young age, we're laughing. Friggin' laughing. Right? And that's the thing. What we gotta do. That's what we gotta change. I don't know. I'm thinking of that book. I'm trying to think what. Maybe call it Life or something like it. I gotta think about that part. But let's just say, when I look at about a lot of the stuff that goes on, when I've pieced it all together, and I'm like, how can we fix in the long term? How do we fix all this crap? How do we fix all this crap? Because people, yeah, seriously, I'm just baffled. I'm beside myself trying to figure it out. It just really, 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 really makes me wonder why people end up the way they do. The black sheep are the ones that are considered the oddball, and those are the ones that are the problem. Instead of embracing the black sheep, they're ostracized. Yeah, I'm the black sheep. Deal with the motherfucker. I don't feel bad for myself. I get frustrated with lack of opportunity because I'm not fitting in on the popular scene or popular opinion. So that's kind of the frustrating part. because it really, really provides the obstacles when, that odd person out is the one trying to actually keep themselves alive, when those that have are basically just ignoring it, hoping it'll just go away. Well, let it just crawl over in a corner and die. you know, that's pretty sad that, we think of our fellow human being in that capacity. And if that behavior was changed at a young age to wipe away the bullshit of, there's winners and there's losers, and instead of looking at it as, hey, let's help the weak become strong, you know, we would be more successful, right? So, yeah, I'm gonna write a book. Maybe you should write a book too. Because if there's anything that I've tried to encourage in my shows, is the fact is that it's a domino effect. We all affect each other. Okay, we all affect each other one way or another. And your behavior, your actions, your words, everything else. Sometimes we slip. It happens. Sometimes we slip. It does happen. But, you can always pick yourself up again. And there's no reason why you can't forgive. There's no reason why you can't, you know, make mistakes and still pull out of it and turn around. You know, there's really no reason for it. But the world's got to be forgiving. And sometimes it's not always. But you still have to just keep moving forward and doing what you can. And doing what you can, trying to make that change. Try to make yourself better. Try to make those around you better. And try to promote, if not for your own generation, for the next generation. So if you could sit back and look back 100 years beyond your years, you could sit back and look at what you've influenced and be happy and proud about that and go, look at that. Yeah, that time I did that. Well, look at that. This made a change there. Make a positive change here. Made a positive change there. And that would be awesome in my opinion. You can't really sit back and look at the house you have and the money you have and, all that stuff like that. That really doesn't give a sense of accomplishment. That's creature comforts. That's trivial. That only affects your little bubble. It doesn't affect greater numbers. It doesn't affect the impact of the mindset of the human condition, the human reality. It's yeah, it doesn't make any sense. That doesn't do fuck all. If you are measuring your success as a human being by the material items you have and the currency you have, like the monetary gains you have, I'm sorry, I feel bad for you. I feel bad for you if that is the measure of your success. I rather have the measure of my success looking back, and this is why, writing a book, an instruction manual for life is important. I rather look back and go, whose lives did I change? Whose lives did I make an impact on? How did their lives go? Was it for the better? Did I make such a positive change on their lives that they had a better life? That their family had a better life? The next generation of their family had a better life? And if that's the case, whether or not it was my gain or whatever, I really couldn't care. The fact that I made a positive change in somebody's life, that would be its own reward of a legacy. That would be something to be proud of. Not my bank account, not the size of my house, not the cars I drive, none of that bullshit. But the fact that my domino hit their domino and it made a positive change, that I would be proud of. And that's the kind of the angle you got to look at it when it comes to life. What's your domino hitting? What's your domino hitting? What's the next domino in the chain, and are you giving it a positive tap in the right direction and making such an impact in that person's life? That's what you got to ask yourself at the end of the fucking day. People are having their own existence, and it's conditioned by what they've been taught. It's been conditioned by the people around them. And you can condition other people and help them if their dominoes aren't going in the right direction. You can be that positive change, and that would be its own reward to try to help people put their dominoes in the right direction. And that's where I want to write an instruction book on life. Just, I don't know. For me personally, I want people to look back, regardless of the fact that it's, all the favorable comments and bullshit that I've gotten over the years. I want somebody to look back and go, yeah, you know what? That guy, he did it right. He, they were ostracized and they were like, not part of the in crowd, but they still persevered and they still made a big change in people's lives. They still made a positive change in people's lives. you know, and if people can look at me with a level of reverence, a level of respect, a level of admiration, a level of, recognition in the sense that they understood now at that point why I was the way I was and the actual change it made in the bigger picture of things, then that would be excellent. I would be happy. I would feel that a life of entirety and completeness, making a positive change in people's lives, having such an impact on people's lives, that because I didn't just keep it to myself in my own little bubble, in my own little comfort zone, in my own little bullshit friggin' oh, I'm gonna survive, fuck everybody else type. I wasn't that selfish bastard that kept it all to myself. I was giving to help out others because of my experience, how I was raised, my overall structure, who made me the person I am. And I didn't succumb to being selfish, and I didn't succumb to just, being that it's us or them type scenario. It was basically we're all us. Let's all help each other out and to succeed and move forward. Life's too short. And obviously, if you look back in history, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? This whole selfish behavior, that's my camp, that's your camp, stay off my lawn. That's the problem. That's the problem. Or there's going to be that people invade your camp and try to take from you what you've worked so hard for. Well, if we all had the mentality that we're all welcomed in each other's camps and we're all accepting in each other's camps and we're willing to help out people, share what's in our camps, that would be a different story, right? Anyways, that's a different topic for a different show. I'm running on fumes right now, so my brain's going a lot of different creative ways. Yeah, I think I'm going to write a book, an instruction manual for life, so people can get it right at a young age and don't become a lot of the assholes that I've come across in life. I feel bad for a lot of people. I sit back and observe a lot of people. And then, I'll give you an example. If I look at my own neighborhood of the a couple dozens of people just in my area that I've seen in transition, I've seen come and go, everything else, I think there's maybe, I can think of on my street alone, there's only 2 households that, frankly, if shit hit the fan, I would embrace them and let them in. No, nothing, like no guesswork. And the funny thing is that those 2 households that I would take into my household and provide whatever they needed, I don't think I've uttered a word to either one of the heads of those households, other than passing in a wave. But I would take them in out of the simple acts of their actions, not their bullshit words, alone, I would take them in just on their actions, the waves and passing and everything else. That enough would, you know, the rest of them, hell no. Hell no. Even the ones I've interacted with for so many years. Because you see beyond the bullshit words. Actions, my friends, actions. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. It's getting in there in time. Bottom line is, I'll keep you posted on the book. I'll let you know the progress of what's going on with that one. Write your own book. You know, there's an idea. Write your own book. What do you want to tell the next generations on how to go about doing things? Where did you feel you went wrong? Where do you figure you went right? If you had to write a book to the next generation, what would you say? How would you structure your life differently from the early ages of like 5 onwards? How would you do things differently? Knowing what you know now, that's the thing. Write your own book. You'd be curious about, sorry, you'd be interested probably to realize when you actually think about it, maybe you fucked up a bit. Maybe you did. Maybe you fucked up a bit, and you could do things differently. You could do things differently. And how would you do it differently? So start your own book. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope everything's well in your world. And, keep your integrity in check. Keep trying to be the best person you can be. We all have moments of weakness. Pull through the weakness. Tomorrow's going to be a better day. Persevere. You can do it. And there is better days ahead. You just have to hang in there. You have to hang in there. But don't forget to make a list of all the ones that were there for you when you needed it, and put that in your book as well. Hey, it's been the latest episode of Car Musings. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Mad Morgan. Love you all. Thank you for my regulars that listen in. Please share the word, spread the word, let people know about us. And I'm signing off for now, and I will see you next episode. Thanks again for listening to today's episode of Car Musings.